Welcome, friends out there in the cyberspace, and welcome to another session. Michael J. Rose from Down Under.
Who is not in cyberspace, but I'm not sure which space I'm in, a humorous space.
Listening to our conversations, I can't help but wonder, what's the state of our mental health? Which is a perfect transition to the topic of today, mental health crisis.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. In the Epoch Times just this morning, I read that there is a global mental health crisis, and it's global. And it seems to me that today, like in Australia, there's a lot of youth violence. And I mean youth being violent. Like yesterday, a 75-year-old man, or the day before, was attacked. He will probably die. And it's somebody like a 15-year-old youth hit him from behind for no reason. And there's more and more of this taking place. And you begin to realize, as you look at it on a metaphysical level, that so much of youth, and they all have a mental problem, health problem, there's no question. Youth violence is a mental health problem. And they have no foundation to their life, because today I think media has to take a lot of responsibility. Most of the media is about fear. What is wrong with the world? Our newspapers, everything is full of what is wrong. There's not much about what is right. And I know years and years ago, 20 years ago, they did a survey in several school playgrounds, asking the schools what did they see for the future for themselves. 70% said they saw no future for themselves. Well, that was years ago. I think that is intensified so that youth doesn't see, a lot of youth, some of them are brilliant, wonderful kids, but so much of youth does not see a future for themselves, and they've got no foundation to stand on except fear. Now, just something like this, it's written on my T-shirt, one of my little sayings: if you honor self, you honor life. If you honor life, life will honor you. Now, that's a good foundation for daily living. If you honor yourself, you honor life. If you honor life, life will honor you. And it's a simple principle, but it works. But they have nothing like that. Schools teach nothing like that.
I can't help but wonder if that whole mental health crisis that we're experiencing, and I agree with you that it's all over the place, has been engineered to destabilize societies all over. How do you feel about that?
I think there's a strong possibility, because at the moment, for instance, heart attacks in Australia at the highest level almost ever. And now the media is claiming this is all down to the side effects of COVID. Well, in fact, there's vast amounts of research which is denied by the media, not allowed to get media coverage, that says since the mRNA vaccine, the myocarditis and pericarditis has risen and is out of all proportion beforehand, and even children at 9 and 10 and 11 are getting myocarditis. And some doctors with 40 years experience have never had that happen before. And so we're very misinformed by the media, and I do believe deliberately they spin things to create fear and to frighten people, and thus you get, because fear itself is the foundation of mental health problems. That's the very foundation of it.
And the motive behind that would just be that humanity in a fearful state is humanity controllable.
Humanity, the fear state, yes. When humanity fears, they're controllable. They will do anything, like the mRNA vaccine rolled out. With the second vaccine came, that's when the heart attack started. And when the third one came out, it escalated. The evidence is so clear, but the media and they deceive us, and they are owned by the cabal, and there you have it. So people like us are called conspiracy theories by people who are dying in that theory, who are literally dying of their theory.
But even before the past 2, 3 years, I have seen an increase of insanity all across the board for the past, I don't know, 20, 30 years. And it seems to have gotten worse and worse. And especially with the increase of and presence of social media and handheld devices, I think we've had a huge increase in that. But maybe let's move more towards the metaphysical side of it and what it is and what we can do to mitigate these issues. Let's look at what's your perspective on mental health issues in general. Can you make a general metaphysical observation when it comes to mental health issues?
Yeah, you can, because the forecast for dementia is it will keep rising, and it will get far worse than it is now. This is the forecast.
Who are you again?
Dementia. Sorry?
I was just saying, who are you again?
And the simple fact is that we have for a long time used chlorine as a cleaning agent, and most people would manage to get some in their body. We've used chlorine, what's the other one, went in toothpaste?
Fluoride.
Fluoride that goes in toothpaste and is put in the water. Now they have a side effect of attacking the pineal gland. The pineal gland sits between the two hemispheres of the brain, and in fact is our third eye. If you take a line directly back, you'll find it there behind the brain. And the pineal, on a physical level, produces serotonin for feeling good, melatonin for sleep, which is affected by light and dark, and it has quite a few roles on that level. But metaphysically, it's rather like the fifth chamber of the heart. It's very different. Metaphysically is the interface between the physical body and the metaphysical, between the physical world and the metaphysical. And when you lose the interface, I mean, we are metaphysical beings. We are souls with a body personality, not body personalities with a soul. So the soul is immortal, the body is mortal. So we are the soul, we are metaphysical beings. And when you lose connection, and the connection is via the pineal more than any other place, when you lose a connection with your metaphysical self, your greater reality, the soul you are, then dementia follows, because you no longer have any stability in life. You've lost the connection with the very thread of who you are. Now, it's not lost permanently, because when you incarnate, it will be there. You can't lose it. You can't lose it, because to lose it, you would have to lose soul. That's another story. But you can definitely lose the connection, the conscious connection. Now, we have a world today, most of the human population, over 90%, lives subconsciously. So subconsciously, you're not aware of the pineal and metaphysical connection. The subconscious, that's part of the theory. So the subconscious doesn't have it. But people who are conscious and live more consciously, I won't say fully, but live more consciously, are aware of who they are and the connection with the pineal. And I'll even go as far as to say on this, that there used to be a Catholic ritual to close down the pineal when a child was christened. And there are people who go around opening up that pineal to bring the energy back. So this has been all part of the closing down, the shutting down, the dumbing down, and reducing humanity to a fear status instead of a love status. Anybody who has their life based in love is unaffected by all this. Anybody who has it based in fear is on a downward mental spiral into what's happening today. That's the metaphysical cause of it that's going on metaphysically. But behind that, there is a war. You could call this the Third World War, and this is a battle for the soul. Now, a lot of people scoff this. I don't mind if they do scoff it, but on a metaphysical level, once you control the mind, you're well on the way. You've got complete control of the body, but when you control the mind, you're on your way to controlling the soul. And fear is mind control, absolute mind control, nothing more. Because the paradox is there is no such thing as fear. It's never been created, and yet we create it. So everybody who has fear has to create it for themselves. Well, we've been doing this for so long, for so many ages, that for most people, they now say, how do I get rid of my fear? They own it, they claim it. Well, when you do that, you're very deeply connected to fear. You're not tethered to it, you're chained to it. But in my journey, spiritual journey, I found that fear, as the great, the gurus and the enlightened people say, it's a toothless tiger. It doesn't exist. Krishnamurti said you can't get rid of fear because it doesn't exist. You cease creating it. And he's absolutely right. In any situation there's fear, you don't have, that fear would be the natural way to go. You don't have to go that way. You can choose love, you can choose trust, you can choose a lot of things, which now I do. I don't choose fear. And but just people don't get it. They think fear is an intrinsic part of life. And so I read of a woman who's writing a book on nature. She's talking about the fear in nature. Nature doesn't have fear, not human fear, because human fear is based in imagination and is based in a negative imagination. Animals don't have imagination. They have plenty, they're more conscious than we are, and they use intelligence very well, but they do not have imagination. That's exclusive to us on this planet. And so you can begin to see when you control the fear and when you are in control of the rhetoric and the headlines that create fear, you're in control of the main mass, the 90% of the people like me, that just don't get caught up in it. Then there's plenty of people like me, millions like me, but there is billions that aren't, and that's the unfortunate part.
Okay, I feel like we have moved apart a little bit from the topic mental health crisis here. Let's maybe...
Actually, fear is the mental health crisis. It's exactly what it is. If you can control your fear levels, you're controlling your life. But then this is what we do. We control the fear, but it doesn't work. It's like trying to control emotions. We've been doing it forever and it doesn't work. And so if you balance emotions, then you don't go into the fear zone. If you bring the emotions into balance, and if you look at fear and realize this is not real, if I don't create it, I don't have it. I don't have to buy into other people's fear, which of course people do buy into it. The fear is not real. God did not create fear and give it to humanity to frighten the living daylights out of us. It was never created. It's not a divine creation, but us, we are learning creation. And we get frightened and we created fear and we've done an excellent job of it. And it's now more common in people's lives than love. But yet everybody knows deep down, love is the answer. The heart knows it. And yet fear dominates still, and it's never dominated more. And is the press and the media anything to do with that? No question. No question.
Would you agree if I said that the current mental health crisis is the dark night of the soul of humanity?
Would I agree it's the what of the soul?
The dark night of the soul of humanity.
Yeah, I think we're definitely humanity as a whole is going through the dark night of the soul. I chose to do it 30 or 40 years ago.
And is it?
I do think the soul has to go through a stage where it is numbingly scary, and that's where the soul finally makes a decision. Do I choose love or do I choose fear? And
the way that
yeah.
The way that I see things, apathy seems to have played a major role in the creation of this dark night of the soul. Do you agree, or are there other components, or is that the main component?
Apathy is a huge component. Thomas Merton, a century ago, said if there's one sin in humanity, it's ignorance, and ignorance brings about apathy. And when we have the great information highway, internet, and people have more information than they ever had. Has it taken away fear? It's created more fear. So when you have information, you don't have knowledge. People today think information is knowledge. It isn't. You could give me the information on how to make a television set. It's knowledge when I've made a set. But people don't do that. So they take the information, and a lot of the information out there is false and is designed to create fear. And so as like I said at the very beginning, we've lost the foundation of, most people have lost the foundation of their life. And if the foundation of your life is something as real and as powerful as love, then you have the basis to build on. But when it's fear, it's a shifting sand, you're in a swamp that's sucking you down deeper and deeper. And as you go deeper, so dementia rises with it.
Say you are in a mental health problem situation. Say you're facing mental health issues yourself, you're watching this video. What could be some of the first steps you could undertake yourself to get out of your situation, whatever the condition is you might have? But
well, people who are listening to this would be ready for such information, whereas most people would not. They just run with the sheep and are full of fear. But when you're becoming more conscious and you look at this, you definitely need to find for yourself what will make a good foundation for me to base my life on. That is, now, I would suggest love, but another person might say, I don't understand what love is. So what do? Then I would say self-acceptance, accepting yourself for who you are, the way you are today, not a better person in the future, and not the person you were yesterday, but the person you are today. Self-acceptance. And follow that, replace self-criticism with self-acceptance. Then move on, when you've got that going, to self-appreciation. Now you're beginning to find the foundation of stability. You're finding it's building your self-worth. It's building up the sense of who you are. You can't overdo that because you're far more than you realize. As I've said before, and I'll say again, you are a magnificent, metaphysical, multidimensional, immortal, eternal being of love, the power of creation and light, the illumination of eternity. That's powerful stuff. And that is the basis of every human being. Now, I remind myself of that constantly, and I do my best to live that. And I'm not joking with this. If you're on your spiritual path and you're in a crisis, you could say to yourself, what would an enlightened man or woman, if I was an enlightened being, what would I choose? I wouldn't choose fear. What would I do? And imagine what you might do based on you. Imagine what you might do if you were enlightened, and follow that. Do that. It'll take you in the right direction. Not if you were frightened, enlightened. Because enlightened simply means enlightenment. In light, it meant. You live your life in light instead of in the shadows and the darkness of doubt and despair, of confusion and fear. And so it's always a choice to make. This is the price we pay for being creators. We are learning creation. So we have to create our own lives. Unfortunately, we've abdicated from our own sovereignty. We've abdicated. So a key word today is sovereignty. Everybody's talking about sovereignty, taking back your own power and sitting on the throne of yourself.
If I was to name
king and queen of your own life.
If I was to name one key component of overcoming mental health issues, I would probably name that reclaiming your sovereignty. And
if you were looking for one word, sovereignty over self, instead of giving it away to the media, and to internet. Internet is taking the sovereignty away from people.
So I think a very basic and simple word of advice is one: turn off all kinds of social media, turn off all kinds of media, turn off all kinds of devices, and give yourself some time without all of this. That's number one. And then number two goes to what we were talking about before we started recording. And I think you made a great point, which we have not mentioned yet, that in a way, the proportion of mental health issues we're seeing is equal to the distance or to the disconnection that we've allowed ourselves to experience from nature. And I think that holds very true. And therefore, the second basic advice is go into nature and spend time in nature, because it's really healing.
A garden, a park, anything. Just standing on the earth, preferably without plastic under your feet and modern shoes. Certainly walk into a park, take your shoes off, or even if you've got them on, leather soles is fine, and polarize with the earth, connect with the earth, feel that earth star chakra beginning to move. Imagine yourself like as roots growing out the bottom of your feet and going down into the earth and connecting with the earth, and earth energy pouring up through those roots into your body. We've lost that connection. If you notice, humanity on this planet did pretty well. We evolved and we were barefooted or leather under our soles, leather until the end of the Second World War. And then gradually it became synthetics. And there's no question, there is a correlation that shows a rise of human sickness with moving away from leather soles. We're the only animal species on this planet that no longer naturally polarizes with the earth all day and every day. We're the only species, and we're the sickest species on the planet.
If you look at it really after the 1930s, 1940s of last century, there has been such a daunting combination of different things, and with them you have really seen a strong decline in human health and also mental health, right? Combination of lack of quality of food, the shoes that you were just talking about, vaccines, television, then more and more technology. All these things combined have really kind of...
junk food and junk drink.
Yeah.
People actually believe you are what you eat. Actually, you are what you think. And when you think junk thoughts, junk food is very attractive. When you think positive, loving thoughts, junk food, you'd rather go hungry. Literally. I know people I've been with, and I said, oh, we could get some food over there on one of the McDonald's, and the guy said, sorry, I'd rather go without. I said, well, so would I, but I thought you were hungry. He said, I'd rather be hungry. And that was his attitude to it. And it's quite a while ago. And this is a lot of people like this. Yeah, I would go hungry before I'd eat that. Yet they feed 80 million people a day, which is, and I suspect far more than that. This is people fed a day on McDonald's. I mean, far more than that would eat McDonald's. And, you know, I rest my case. Jamie Oliver proved what he needed to prove with McDonald's, that the food wasn't fit to eat, that the filler wasn't fit. Anyway, I'm not going there with McDonald's.
So
The fact is that the rise of junk food, the rise of junk drink, the rise of junk television, because God, the garbage on television now, the rise now of the internet and the junk on internet, it's I think it's still 50% pornography on it, and the rise of all that and the dumbing down of humanity, which is deliberate. Well, of course we're at a crisis point. Now everybody decides on their timeline, which is something we'll talk about maybe next week. You know, this crisis has brought us to, because
yeah,
we're the creators, and it's not just going to go away.
it's fascinating though.
Let me just finish. If you create something that's harmful for you, you're going to have to continue to experience the harm and realize, okay, this is killing me, and then come back and do it again and work your way through and out the other side. So you don't, I mean, here we are. I'm going to say you don't become a danger to yourself. We have a humanity today which is a danger to itself. How about that?
Isn't it fascinating though that if you look at, isn't
You
it
don't need to
fascinating
have
though
a
that if you
notice
look,
on the bull. You don't need a notice on the bull paddock. Danger, the bull is in the paddock. It's now danger, humans in the city.
right? I find it very fascinating though that looking at the history of humanity, that there is such an intensification in the past 70 years, 80 years, compared to thousands of years.
Yeah, but you've got to remember we hit the billion at the beginning of the 19th century. And from there, we've jumped up much faster than our consciousness has grown. So when you get 8 billion with overall lower consciousness, that is not a good way to go. And the simple fact is, for a long time, we haven't been evolving in consciousness. We've been getting clever. And look what clever's done to the planet today. Look what humanity's done to look what clever's done to humanity today. That's not intelligence. It's clever, stupid.
Maybe that's
and look
another
at our
part.
politicians. They're all clever, stupid.
Maybe that's another part of the conclusion or the summary of this session, that as we have allowed ourselves to develop the intellect and disconnect from the heart, we have given rise to mental health issues.
That's probably one of the biggest ones. We've connected with the left brain and we've let go of the whole brain and the heart. We're designed to be whole brain, heart connected, and use the pineal, which is where the intuition, whole brain, heart, pineal is the connection of your connection with intelligence, and intelligence speaks through the intellect, through the intuition. And the intellect, that just speaks, we won't even go there. And so, yeah, we've put everything together wrong. And now we have a big notice out in space, danger, Earth planet, humans, wild humans here. Okay, I shouldn't be like that.
What would you like to say to those who are aware of this and who are seeing it happen, who are not part of it in the sense that they are fine mentally, they don't have a mental health issue, but they see the world declining? And I sometimes hear people on the spiritual path or in the alternative realm very concerned, sometimes getting sad or sometimes, angry, depends on the person, but being reactive to what they see happening in the world. What is your recommendation on how to deal with what's going on in the world as a conscious person?
First, you have to remember that every human being is immortal and eternal. So if they are going through pain and suffering today, that's the lesson that they will avoid. Tomorrow, they'll move away from it because they now know what pain and suffering is. And we don't learn particularly quickly. And secondly, I would say you need to create a relationship with yourself based in love and realize that you create your world. If one person in the 100 is creating a world of love and 199 are creating a world of fear, you are in your world of love. You are not in their world of fear. Now, if you're worrying about the world, the state of the world, then you are in the world of fear, because fear and worry hold hands. If without fear, you cannot have worry or anxiety. It's not possible. And I don't have worry or anxiety. I've forgotten what they feel like. And some people say that's not possible. I can assure you it is. And so you have to basically pull together the principles of truth. Like this one, if you honor yourself, you honor life. If you honor life, life will honor you. That is so simple. Write it down. It is so simple. So you honor yourself. You honor yourself by no longer criticizing yourself, no longer looking on yourself as an idiot, and realize, okay, there is fear in me, but there's love in me. I think I'm going to choose love. Where you focus, your energy flows. So continually choosing love, you're moving your energy in a different direction. It's moves like this that help you win the game. Like often a chess game is won in the first 6 moves. It's already decided. It might go on for another hour. Once you put the first moves into place of love and honoring self, then you're already changing the whole game and the game's moving in your favor. But you don't have to be concerned about the world, because all life is immortal, and you are the creator of your life, and you don't have to live other people's lives. They do. And if that's their lesson, what's wrong in learning a lesson? When I was a kid, I found certain things like walking down the street and I see a dog looking at me and I gently reach out to touch his head, and the next moment he's got my hand in his mouth crunching down on it. I learned that, okay, dogs bite. They have far bigger teeth than humans. And if you're going to pat them on the head, you do it strongly and positively, not tentatively and fearfully. This is the way we learn. And so people say, poor boy got bitten. It was good. It was really good I got bitten. The dogs and I got on well after that.
Thank you, Michael. The time is over.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone out there for listening. If you enjoyed it, share it and like it and comment. And
probably next time we'll talk about timelines.
I think that's a very good idea.
We
See
got
you on the other
ourselves
side.
around. Bye.